Just a quick video today on the British Columbia provincial election, but I came across this last night and I just started investigating because something seemed off about it, even though this is so typical in an election to get an endorsement from a previous party leader. So the BC NDP last night posted this image of John Horgan. It's a nice little quote graphic and it says, "We've accomplished so much together. Let's keep building on the progress we've made. Vote for the BC NDP." And it says, "Signed, John Horgan." Did he endorse them? I actually don't think that John Horgan actually endorsed David Eby's BC NDP. And it would make sense why he wouldn't have endorsed them, because if you look at all the polling of people who voted in 2020 for the BC NDP, a good third of them aren't voting for David Eby's version of the BC NDP in 2024. Rumor has it, and when I say rumor, I mean basically everyone knows it's true, John Horgan detests David Eby. Because as much as I, as a conservative, don't agree with many of John Horgan's policy positions on many issues, John Horgan is also not a crazy socialist, and he despises the hyper progressivism of David Eby. That he is a know-it-all loudmouth who's never actually, run a business before, done anything productive. He's just an activist. As soon as John Horgan left as premier, he joined the board of a coal company, and now he's like the ambassador for Canada in Germany. He does not want anything to do with David Eby. And so when I started snooping around, wondering what was going on with John Horgan endorsement, I started checking out his social media. Has he posted anything? And no, he hasn't. The last thing he posted was back in June. And it's all stuff about Germany and Canadian relations. That's it. He's not posting anything about the current David Eby NDP telling them people to vote for them. And I checked the news. Maybe in the news, he issued an article saying, "I think people should stand behind the BC NDP," or maybe even just the guy who replaced him in his old riding, Ravi Parmar, who I've said before has the political timing of a bowling ball going through a plate glass window. And no, this is the current news tab on John Horgan, them just reporting on him having a relapse of cancer for the third time. I hope he's doing well. He seems like a very nice man, and I believe that it's only a minor relapse that he can quickly get over. And since then, he hasn't said anything. And then right after that, remember, when his cancer relapsed, the BC NDP had the unmitigated audacity to put out a data mining email and post on social media saying, "Sign his get well card," and ask people to sign up to their website. And then they'd get email updates about John's condition and letting him know that they all support him. And then in the fine print, they say, "We'll also send you emails about everything else and ask you for money constantly," and all that stuff. The reason I think this is going on, which they didn't have to do it, this is embarrassingly pathetic, the fact that they posted this. And the sad thing is the BCNDP could still win this election. So if you live in British Columbia and you haven't voted during the advanced polls, you have to show up on October 19th. I don't care if it's a massive rainstorm. Please go out and vote. Do not let these guys get back into office. They are crazy socialists. But I think the reason that they did this was because the BC Conservatives have been getting a lot of endorsements from former premiers. Bill Vander Zalm supports them. They have Gordon Campbell both endorsing the party as well as specific MLA candidates like Lynn Block. I believe Melissa Genova got the endorsement of Gordon Campbell as well. He's endorsed the party both in print as well as in radio interviews. He's standing behind the BC Conservative Party quite strongly. He's even willing to admit, basically, that the carbon tax was a mistake back when he implemented it, and that he wants John Rustad to become the premier and do everything that he's promised to do. And because somehow the BC NDP are losing the endorsement game, despite the fact that the Conservatives are an upstart party and in theory don't have a lot of former politicians that are naturally going to endorse them because they're from the same party. They're all from either the BC Liberals, they're from the Federal Conservatives, or they're from the Social Credit Party. They're not having a problem. The BC NDP are having a problem. And another issue is that some of their endorsements are toxic. They have like Noor Mohammed, I forget his first name, a bunch of Liberal MPs coming out and endorsing their guys, which is just substantiating the accurate charge by the BC Conservatives that the BC NDP are going to work hand in glove with the federal Liberals, who nobody in this province likes. Everyone is pretty much voting for somebody other than the federal Liberals. And so if you don't like the federal Liberals, which describes 75% of people in this province at least, I think the Liberals only actually get like 20% in this province, that if you don't like them, why would you then want the party who the federal Liberals likes? Why would you want the BC NDP if Justin Trudeau wants them to stay in power? It makes absolutely no sense. And this post was just symptomatic of the current position that the BC NDP are in. They could still pull off a win where even if the Conservatives get the popular vote, maybe just the right marbles roll down the right holes for the BC NDP and they get the right votes in certain ridings, but it's not looking great. There was record-breaking turnout in the early polls, showing 1 million people voted and only 671,000 people voted in the early polls back in 2020 during a COVID election where people were basically voting early to avoid the pandemic or whatever. That this year we've smashed that record, and typically whenever you're in an election where people don't like the incumbent government, if turnout is high, it's probably not a lot of people showing up to defend them. It could be. It just doesn't seem like it would be the sort of it wouldn't be like high turnout doesn't usually mean people are defending a government where by the polling data people think they're doing a bad job on pretty much every single issue under the sun, other than these really tiny minor issues that don't drive anyone's votes, like who has better relations with the federal government. Like people will rate EB positively on that, but even then people don't want you to be working with the federal government well because they're doing terrible things to the country on immigration, on taxes, regulations, anti-energy policies, all that sort of a thing. So, anyways, I'm just gonna keep it short today, and I'm gonna reemphasize: if you live in British Columbia and you do not vote, I don't know what's wrong with you. You have to vote if you're eligible to vote in this province because we cannot have the BC NDP keep ruling you. Imagine if Polyev becomes the prime minister next year and you guys get left as the only ones with a carbon tax still. I'm hitting doors every single day. There's a lot of other people hitting doors. The 19th, I've heard, is going to be torrential rain across most of British Columbia. It doesn't matter if the weather sucks. You got to vote if you haven't voted yet. And so, badger your neighbors, badger your friends, do all that sort of thing. Anyways, that's it for me today, guys. If you want to support the show, in the description of this video below, I have a link to my Give, Send, Go legal fund. You can contribute to that if you want to help us out. We have a billionaire Chinese developer suing us for defamation, and in almost 3 years, he hasn't even filed a single piece of evidence to show we defamed him. Our guest writer literally just referenced a Globe and Mail investigative article about him, and because we referenced someone else's work that he never sued them over, he's suing us because he didn't think I would be able to pay to mount a defense. It's nonsensical lawfare type tactics. Anyways, it's cost me more than $33,000. So in the description below and pinned at the top of the comments is a fundraising link. And then you can also, like this video, subscribe, share it. It really helps the show out if you recommend it to other people. Have a good one, everyone.